You ever stop and think about Guy Fawkes Night? Every year, people across Britain celebrate a failed terrorist attack with huge bonfires and fireworks. It's a little weird, right? Well, let me tell you, the 400-year story behind it is even more incredible than you can imagine.
You've probably heard this rhyme, right? It's famous all over the world. But what does it really mean? What are we supposed to be remembering? And how did this one specific date in November turn into such a long-lasting, explosive tradition?
In today's Explainer, we're going to dig into the incredible 400-year story behind this tradition. We'll follow its journey from a terrifying plot to kill a king all the way to its modern-day role as a global symbol of protest. So let's jump right in.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at this kind of strange celebration itself. Then, we'll rewind back to the original Gunpowder Plot. After that, we'll see how the whole thing turned into a day of riots, how it even made its way over to America, and finally, and this is the best part, how the main villain of the story somehow became a modern folk hero.
Okay, so let's start with just how weird this all is. Every single November 5th, people all over the UK get together for these massive bonfires and spectacular fireworks shows. And what are they celebrating? That a plot to blow up Parliament failed. Think about that. It's kind of like celebrating that you stopped a house fire by lighting a bunch of other fires in the garden. So how did this all get started?
To really get it, we need to go way back in time, to the year 1605. England at this time was tense. You had this major conflict brewing between Protestants and Catholics. The new king, James I, was a Protestant, and a small group of English Catholics felt they were being treated terribly. So they decided to take some very extreme action.
So here's the plan they cooked up. A group of plotters, Guy Fawkes being one of them, decided they were going to blow the Houses of Parliament sky high. The goal? To kill the Protestant king and his entire government in one single massive blast. But on the night of November 5th, the plot was discovered. Fawkes himself was caught red-handed, literally standing guard right next to all the explosives.
And we're not talking about a small explosion. These guys had hidden 36, that's 36, barrels of gunpowder right underneath Parliament. That was enough to completely vaporize the building and everything for hundreds of meters around it. The whole plot was stopped, literally at the very last minute. So, just so we're all on the same page with the vocabulary here, a conspirator is simply a person who takes part in a secret plan to do something harmful or illegal. And let's be real, Guy Fawkes and his group, they were the textbook definition of conspirators, working in the shadows to overthrow the government. So, the king's safe, the plot's a total failure. You'd think, okay, story's over, right? Nope, not even close. This was really just the beginning. The government saw a golden opportunity, and that yearly celebration quickly went from a day of Thanksgiving to something way more chaotic. Right away, the government turned this whole thing into a massive piece of propaganda. They actually passed a law that made it illegal if you didn't celebrate the king's survival. Can you imagine? It became this mandatory national holiday, all designed to boost the king's power and stir up anti-Catholic feelings among the public. So you can probably see where this is going. The whole vibe of the celebration started to change. Over time, it became less about, hooray, the king is safe, and more about giving people a chance to vent their anger. This got even worse when the next king, Charles I, went and married a Catholic princess. Suddenly, that annual bonfire was the perfect place for people to show just how frustrated they were. And this is where the tradition of burning effigies gets started. An effigy is basically a dummy, a model of a person that you make specifically to destroy as a form of protest. And back then, on November 5th, the #1 effigy to burn was a model of the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church. And things started to get really wild. We're talking way beyond just burning some models. In some towns, the night just descended into total chaos. In the city of Exeter, the riots got so bad, they had to call in the army twice in one night. And get this, in a town called Ottery St. Mary, they started a tradition so dangerous, it's amazing it still happens today. People literally run through the streets carrying flaming barrels of tar on their backs. But this tradition didn't just stay in Britain. Oh no. As settlers traveled to the New World, they brought their customs with them. And in the American colonies, Guy Fawkes Night took on a whole new life. In colonial cities like Boston, the holiday became known as Pope Day. The original religious meaning was pretty much forgotten. Instead, it just became a big excuse for the working classes to drink, cause trouble, and protest against the rich and powerful. You even had rival street gangs who would fight each other for the honor of getting to burn the Pope's effigy.
So what put a stop to it? Believe it or not, it was George Washington himself. During the American Revolution, he straight up banned his troops from celebrating it. Why? Because he needed Catholic allies, like the French Canadians, to help fight the British. He just couldn't risk his soldiers offending them by celebrating Pope Day. And after that order, the tradition in America pretty much vanished.
Okay, now we get to the absolute craziest twist in this whole 400-year saga. We're talking about the final transformation of Guy Fawkes himself. How on earth did the villain of this story become a modern-day hero?
Just look at this contrast. It is unbelievable. The real Guy Fawkes was a religious extremist who wanted to install a powerful Catholic king. For centuries, he was the villain whose model was burned on the bonfire. But today, the Guy Fawkes mask is a global symbol of protest against the government. The meaning has been completely flipped on its head. And that's really the key takeaway here. It is deeply ironic. A man who wanted to replace one government with an even stricter one has become the face of modern protest against government control. It's just a powerful example of how historical symbols can completely change their meaning over time. So what about the celebration today? Well, it's transformed once again. That old anti-Catholic law was finally removed back in 1959. The violence is gone, and today Guy Fawkes Night is a family-friendly community event. People of all backgrounds and beliefs come together simply to enjoy the bonfire and watch the fireworks.
And all of this leaves us with one last really interesting question to think about. The story of Guy Fawkes Night shows us that traditions aren't fixed in stone. They're alive and they evolve. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What symbols that we see all around us today might have a completely different meaning 400 years in the future.